What's up guys, Edrone here. This is the new KINfpv Cipher HDZ frame. The frame that is exclusively designed to work with the new HD0 1 watt freestyle VTX. Stay tuned.
I'm going to go ahead and continue the build by installing the 4 iFlight Zing 2207 2750 kV motors. Went ahead and used the 4 7mm aluminum screws. In the bottom, made sure they're not coming up touching the windings. That's what you want to look for when you go ahead and tighten these. And we're also going to be utilizing these TPU wire protectors here on the arms with a couple zip ties. I like to use the aluminum screws because they are less likely to strip out the bottom of the motors. Rather, you would just bend the screws in hard impacts. Now we've got all the motors installed. I'm going to go ahead and install the camera using the Runcam Micro V1 16x9. Going to go ahead and connect the MIB connector to the camera simply by lining it up in this orientation. I'm going to push down evenly once it's lined up. You should hear a couple little snaps indicating it's secure. Now that it's secure, we can go ahead and put the included cover on. We're going to remove the 4 screws and put longer screws to hold on this back case. Only need to have 2 screws to screw this into the camera mount. It is designed for the micro size camera. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these 2 screws to your liking for your angle. Now we've got the camera installed, and it does give you adequate camera protection. I'm going to go ahead and get the included BEC that comes with the HD0 VTX, and we're going to go ahead and solder up pre-tin 2 ground pads, 2 to 6S pad in, and the power out. Now I'm going to use the clear heat shrink for this because I like the clear. You're able to see your connections. Go ahead and get your solder, and we're going to go ahead and pre-tin these 4 pads. Put a nice little shiny ball of solder on each of the pads. And then go ahead and take your ground. This is going to be the ground going to the actual video transmitter. And now our power that we're going to use to go to the harness. Then we're going to go ahead and solder 2 leads, a positive and a negative lead, on the actual input voltage and ground for the input. Using a little bit thicker wire here than the wires going out shouldn't be a problem. These wires are going to go directly to the main power of the ESC. Go ahead and connect the ground, and then the hot wire 2 to 6S voltage, and this is going to go directly to the positive pad on the actual ESC. Okay, we got a nice good connection here. Happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and put some clear heat shrink over this and heat it up. That way we can always be able to see the condition of the pads and the wires anytime we need to without having to remove the heat shrink. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our ESC ready with a low ESR capacitor here. You see the low ESR capacitor has dashes on the one side, that's negative, and a longer leg is always your positive. So we're going to go ahead and put these on the, they have 2 holes on this ESC. This is the Mamba. We're going to go ahead and solder up the outer pads for the capacitor legs. Going to leave a little bit of room. That way we can flex the capacitor if needed to put it where it's going to ultimately be in the build. Just going to add some solder here and make sure it's nice and coated and secure. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut off these additional legs on the bottom here. And we're going to go ahead and pre-tin the power in and negative pads on the ESC. This is the 4-in-1 F50 BL Heli 32. You want to make sure you put your XT60 through the top plate for this particular build. Then going to go ahead and connect your ground. Make sure you get a nice good connection there. Looking for some nice shiny solder here. And then we're going to connect the positive pad here as well, using the 14 gauge XT60 wire here for 6S. We'll handle that no problem. And this is a 1000 microfarad low ESR capacitor. Should be plenty for 6S. Now we're going to go ahead and pre-tin all the pads on the ESC. Not going to completely cover the pads with the solder because our wires are also going to have solder, which we pre-tin. And then when you add the pre-tin wires to the pads, then the pad will be able to fill out with excess solder, so you don't get too much solder to avoid having bridges. Going to go ahead and pre-tin the positive and negative wire of the included BEC, which is going to transfer the voltage from 6 volts, and it's going to step that down for the HD0 1 watt VTX. Go ahead and connect our leads here for our positive and negative for the BEC. We'll have plenty of room in this build to be able to mount all this. You can use a pad on your flight controller as well, but I chose to use the included BEC. Next, we're going to go ahead and get the receiver, Crossfire Nano. This one already came with the antenna securely on. We're going to feed that through the back, connect our Immortal T on the back two standoffs. Nice clean design on that, fits perfectly. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pre-tin our positive, negative, RX and TX on the receiver, Crossfire Nano. Then we're going to go ahead and connect the 4 wires. And then we're going to put our heat shrink on. Go ahead and get that sealed and clear as well, clear heat shrink. And now we got it tucked away in the back, nice and neat. Next, we're going to go ahead and get the motor wires ready to go ahead and solder on the ESC. Go ahead and pre-tin all those wires there, and go ahead and connect those. And it looked like they connected just fine, and they don't get in the way of the other wires. So I'm going to go ahead and run the Crossfire receiver wires under the flight controller above the ESC. Connect our flight controller, plug in the plug header, and connect the top nuts. And you can see we have a nice soft mount with plenty of space, air gap in between. Makes for a really clean build for sure. Next, we're going to go ahead and solder up our 3 wires, our RX, TX, and our smart audio wire for the HD0 1 watt VTX. Now we've got our Crossfire Nano soldered up with the 5 volt ground, RX, and TX on the flight controller. Really appreciate you guys watching and all your support. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and get the Crossfire receiver bound. We're going to go ahead and get the HD0 1 watt unlocked. We're also going to flash the firmware on the VRX and on the HD0 VTX, as well as go ahead and get everything set up in beta flight so we can get ready for the maiden flight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and there's going to be more of the KINfpv Cipher HD Z frame. Edrone out.